These are the Executive Files. I'm Alexis Milner, editor of the Tampa Bay Business Journal, and with us is Monica Eaton-Cardone, co-founder and COO of Chargebacks 911. We asked her, what is a chargeback?
The best way to explain a chargeback is to consider an option where you get a refund by contacting your bank instead of the merchant or the retailer that you bought the product from. And there's good chargebacks and there's not so good chargebacks. So a chargeback could be absolutely justified. For instance, maybe you had credit card fraud, maybe someone stole your identity. But there's also bad chargebacks. And this is something that we focus on identifying for merchants. These are chargebacks where consumers get refunds from their bank for transactions where the retailer actually didn't do anything wrong. It is a $40 billion problem, and probably even more than that this year. And it really acts as a hidden tax. Most people would think that chargebacks only affect merchants, but the problem is they really affect everyone, including our entire economy. So the online environment is growing. The more online transactions there are, the more opportunities there are for chargebacks. And the problem is consumers that file too many chargebacks actually end up creating the biggest liability for themselves. Because when we drive up costs for merchants and banks, ultimately the repercussions are inflation, increased prices, decreased values or value of products, and ultimately we end up getting a lot less for our money. Initially, I had come up with this idea, Chargebacks 911, because it started out a little bit as a joke, as a pun in the industry, because I was a merchant suffering from chargebacks, and there was no solution out there. I tried everything, and I just figured, you know what? I am so sick and tired of chargebacks. I'm going to figure out how to solve this problem, do or die, and nearly died doing so. But through the expensive education, I figured out how to solve the problem. And oddly enough, I started getting calls from the banks that I worked with. Hey, Monica, there's another merchant that has a similar problem. And I had no idea that any other merchant, because chargebacks, it's something that you don't talk about. It's this issue that merchants have that you just don't tell people that you have chargebacks. It's a reputation issue. So I started finding that there were other people that had chargebacks, and I became a go-to person for different merchants to call me, and I'm thinking this is like behind the scenes secret work that I'm helping these merchants. And I thought, I'm going to create a company. Maybe I'll do a little bit of consulting on the side because I'm really passionate about solving chargebacks. And I'm going to call it Chargebacks 911. Even though I'm working with banks, I don't care about banks. What I care about is that what I really wanted as a merchant, I wanted someone to be on my side. I wanted someone to tell me what was going on, how I solved this problem. I want to be a good merchant, and I just need things really simple. And what I really wanted is to dial 911 and be rescued from chargebacks. Because as a merchant, I just wanted to sell and do a good job with customers. I didn't want to learn about chargebacks. So I set up a website, and probably within 2 weeks of the website going live, I was contacted by the Wall Street Journal and then the New York Times. And it's one of those, funny stories. The rest was history. At that point, I was like, oh my gosh, there really is a demand. And we grew the business just based on the philosophy that, hey, we want to be the best company out there that has the greatest solution. We don't care about being the biggest. We just care about providing a really great solution that's catered for merchants. I probably never thought once that I'm a woman and so I shouldn't be doing this. I think when you're trying to solve a problem, you develop a sense of confidence once you figure out the solution, that it gets to the point where you think, I've gone through the worst possible hell trying to figure out what to do. Now, nothing will shake my confidence. I think that can actually, that can go a long way for women in technology. Of course, in today's society, the best way to solve problems is when you can use a technology. There's so much innovation, there's so much evolution that is going on. It presents a huge asset for us to work with. So the more that we can really get to use this type of vehicle to help us, it's going to expand our horizon and allow us to do more. But yeah, it started with just a burning desire to solve a problem that I had, and probably, you know, confronting all of the naysayers that said, oh, you know what, you shouldn't actually solve this problem. You should go to the banks. You should do this. And I did all of that. And you know, it wasn't effective. It didn't work. And regardless of being a woman or a man, I'm human. And as a human, I know, hey, there is a solution to every problem out there. Clearly, I just don't have the right people. I haven't looked at the problem in the right way, and I can figure this out. When it came to the philanthropic effort, we started out, we hire a lot of people at entry-level positions to work some of these cases. So naturally, one area that we looked at is right in our backyard, and Clearwater High School is right in our backyard. So we would interview a lot of high school kids, either they're working through the summer, part-time, or they've recently graduated. And you know, one thing we noticed is that there wasn't a lack of education, there was actually a lack of confidence. And that confidence is the biggest barrier to success, because when you believe that you can't do something, you don't even try. So we interviewed all of these kids, and many of them would come to work and they had the aptitude. You know, being in a technology company, it's amazing. Things have changed so much. A 19-year-old that is a video game player extraordinaire is a perfectly qualified candidate, well over someone that may have a master's degree sometimes. But you know, they had the skill set, but they didn't have confidence in that work environment. And so we were confronted with a difficult decision. It was, you know, let's look outside of Clearwater, because clearly, you know, these kids are just not going to make the cut. Or it was, well, maybe we can do something about it, because we're running into the same problem after problem. And, you know, it's not that we don't have the right kids, it's just that they don't think that this is a good fit. And when I would have some of these interviews, and you know, I was told in the interview they just graduated, their goal was to become a manager at Burger King. Their goal was to be an assistant at, you know, at someplace, or their goal is to be on American Idol. Okay, granted, I love that goal, that's great, but what about another goal? But you could see the confidence was something that was becoming a significant barrier in their lives. Working with a spouse is the best of both worlds, and the worst, I guess. So we started the organization as Chargebacks 911, and you know, initially, and my husband's name is Gary, and he is a brilliant mastermind. He has a background in commodities and is definitely, you know, focusing on the revenue side. And so I tried to rope him into this idea early on, and he said, you know what? I don't like the idea. It's not going to be successful. We're already doing something successful. Why are you changing? But if you're a woman, you know what? We have to change things sometimes. It's one of our skills. So I said, okay, let me just play with this and see what happens. And then we started taking off, and so I convinced him, okay, Gary, you have to come in and run all of this stuff on the revenue side. Like, I need you. I'll handle the technology, the operations, and he is the best partner, probably one of the most intelligent people that I know. Of course, we're best friends, but I'll tell you, the thing that's challenging about working with your spouse is probably what's challenging about working with any great partner. You know each other inside and out. You know how to push each other's buttons, you know, but you know, that comes with some benefits as well. And the benefit is that you're never afraid to be, or to contradict something. So you're not afraid of arguing. And I think, you know, one of the things that has made us successful is confronting those difficult arguments, to actually look at all the pros and cons and not go along with the status quo just because that was what I said. even though I hate it sometimes, I love the fact that I get challenged. And sometimes, especially when you're dealing with a spouse, you know what? There's no holds bar on the challenge that will come. But it helps keep you honest. It keeps the integrity of the business. In many ways, we work as total opposites. He could care less about any details. He's much more of a macro component. And I'm more operational. I get into all of the details. I care about the quality. These are the things. So we make a great team. My grandmother is named Eva Maybecker, and she was an amazing person. So if you can imagine, here's this woman, and this beautiful ballerina, and she grew up very wealthy in Europe, and then broke her leg. And at a very young age, I think she was in her 20s, and was told, you may not ever walk again, immediately destroyed her career, ended up moving to the United States, and then lost her father, lost her mother. And it was just like one of these stories that you think you're going to see on a movie, that you'll be crying through the whole thing. But she is the type of person that she did not let any of these things get to her. She has resilience. And I think that resilience is such a tremendous component to being successful in whatever facet you have. So not only did she go through all these trials, but she ended up getting married, and she had 3 children. And not only that, she didn't stop there, but she never had any help. So she ran everything. She became a PTA president. She started an organization and she lost her husband at a very young age, but then she started an organization to support women who had lost their husbands. So, you just look at, here's a person that every problem that she confronted, she decided to rewrite the problem into an opportunity to do something. And, I think that is really a lesson that I have learned is, of course, it's important to persevere and be resilient. There's not a single entrepreneur on the planet that would say that isn't the number one thing. You cannot quit. But the other important thing is to take a look at challenges that you have and consider rewriting that history and rewrite the way that you're interpreting those challenges as an opportunity to do something more. And this is what she did. The most positive, can-do attitude of anybody that I've ever known.